so I've talked about all these observation and how does this Vedantic, very profound Vedantic inquiry shows us this path that yes, no, you can actually, you are an observer, not just you can. It's not a visual thinking. You are an observer. But I think the mood point really is that it's all good. I mean, it looks, even I were to become an observer of these thoughts, I know it by conviction. How does it actually help us to contain all our emotional upheavals?
So let us understand that why when we are talking in the context of mental health, why exactly are we looking at observation? So the thing is that the main issue of observing our thoughts and emotion arises because there is mental health is getting compromised due to uncontrolled thoughts and emotions, and essentially the negative emotions that are occurring repeatedly.
Yeah.
Right. So if we simply look at our mind is like a thought generator or a random thought generator. Now it's not a physical object that can be controlled. So we have memories, we have imaginations that are happening constantly because of all the information that we have you know uh, accumulated over a period of years through different sources. Now these things are popping up in our mind, especially the events, or uh, let's say somebody had said something, or we had some intense desire about something, some very intense attachment, the likes and the dislikes. So all those information and memories that we have in our mind, it is attracting it like a magnet. Just like a magnet, you put it and you have a different materials around. So if there is an element of iron in it, so the magnet will automatically get attached to it and it will attract. But if there is something else like plastic or something else, so it will not attract it. So similarly, our mind is constantly attracting the thoughts and the emotions which we have got associated with it in a very intense manner. Now, this entire attachment, the concept is understood as identification. So, when we say that we are identifying with a particular thoughts and emotion, what essentially we are saying is that our ego is getting associated, or it is getting attached to a particular thought and emotion. This is the root cause of all the sufferings that we are going through, because of all these chain of past memories that are coming into the picture, or vivid imaginations about the future, and this all this things about the anxiety that we are suffering, because what will happen, what will not happen, and things like that. So if we try to understand this in even in a very simpler manner, I will just give you one example. What how we can understand that there is a state of this identification, and then the state of non-identification, through which we can elevate all the suffering, and we can have a healthy mind. Simply, all of us have watched movies, and we have watched dramas, and we have gone to theaters. So let us go back and recall those moments when we are sitting in the cinema hall or in that theater, and we are watching these actors performing a particular act, and there is a scene going on. The scene is something like this. There's it's a kind of a sad scene where something happens between two actors, and it's like one person is crying, the other is in a different state of mind altogether, and we are simply watching that as an audience, right? So what is exactly happening in that moment? And you would have seen that, especially people who are more emotional, they tend to cry in those scenes. But have you ever thought that when they are also having the similar emotions in the mind, are they really suffering? So when they come out of it, they have actually not suffered, although they had that emotion for a particular point in time, for a small length of time, but they did not suffer. So this is one thing which we have to probably recall from our memories, and similarly, just compare that with an event that happened in our own life. Somebody said something, or let's say we had an expectation and the other person could not meet it. So what happened? We became either angry or became agitated or became sad that it has not happened. So what is the exact difference? The difference is here we are instantly identifying with that emotion, and our ego is getting attached. Oh, this is mine. That's why when it did not happen, that emotion came in, and our ego identified with it. We eventually suffered, and for hours and days we are still in that particular emotional state, right? So this is a difference. Well, in one scenario we are having something called as a egocentric emotional experience. In our own life we had an egocentric emotional experience, but when we are watching as an audience a particular scene, then that emotional experience is something called as non-egocentric, right? So this exact non-egocentric emotional experience is something we can understand and has been elaborated and talked about as something called as a sakshi bhav. The sakshi bhav is the entire concept of observation and mindfulness that we are dealing with these days. So when this sakshi bhav happens, and all, as we have understood that the problem of the root cause of most of the mental health issues is this identification with our emotional state. So the objective is that we don't have to drown in the sea, right? We don't have to drown in the sea, but we have to just keep on floating, just keep on observing. And when we do that, we get into a state where we are able to introspect and contemplate that what exactly is going around. All these thoughts and emotions that are happening, they're popping up from some of the past memories or some events, or thoughts about the future. Now when this pop-up is happening, do we have to maximize it and pay attention to it, or we have to simply just it's a time bound, because all these thoughts and emotions, they are transitionary in nature, they're not no permanent things. So when we know that these are transitionary in nature, it will automatically subside and go away, so we don't have to pay attention to it, right? So when we get into the mode of introspection and contemplation, we can pick and choose what to work on and what not to work on. And that is where whether we have to see that do we have to go for some kind of self improvement or self management, or we have to just let the things go because we were not the real cause of that main issue that happened. It was because of the surroundings and environment and some other things, right? Now, there's something very interesting that we can look for when we say, or when we explain this in language, that I am sad or I am angry, right? But if we look at how in the Zen philosophy, how this had been said, that instead of explaining this as I am sad or I am angry, we should rather say it as I feel sad or I feel angry. This is a kind of a remarkable shift in the way we address to that particular emotion, rather than saying that I am sad and identifying with that emotion and assuming that I am that emotion itself. I am the person who is actually feeling that emotion. So this subject and object thing that you elaborated in this Vivek, so we are creating an entire separation between the subject and the object. So I am the person who is feeling this emotion of being agitated or happy or sad or whatever. So the entire understanding about mindfulness and how this observation it helps us eventually boils down to this, that if we are able to create a separation between us and our thoughts and emotions, a lot of issues I mean, I think from personal experience I can say that there are a lot of issues of the emotional turmoils can be simply solved out. But this requires a certain level of exercising the power of choice, that yes, I want to do it, I want to get out of all this nonsense that is going on in my mind, and then using that power of choice to learn and practice some of the technique that yoga offers in our daily life. If we are able to do that, then I think we are on for good for our better overall health and mental health.